All right, everyone, you want to hear a really, really funny story? Michael Moore, his new documentary on green energy exposing some of its issues. A bunch of leftists are trying to get it censored, trying to keep it from being publicly aired. Normally, with Michael Moore, like it antagonizes people on the right, like the Breitbart and the Bill O'Reilly crowd, and they're like, well, he's an anti-American pinko commie. People shouldn't watch his movie. And like I've seen Sicko, and I've seen some of his other work. And like sometimes there are some funny things in it, and sometimes there are a few kernels of wisdom, but boy, you have to dig through a lot of shit to find them. Michael Moore is not a very lovable individual. The other part is like his personality really rankles even a lot of people on the left, and so he gets less defense maybe sometimes, unless he's specifically sparring with the far right, then they'll sort of fall in line. But it's so funny because his new documentary is about essentially the ideas that green energy actually has problems, that it's not perfect, and that the green energy lobby, sort of post-environmentalist people, are kind of misleading people. Like, for instance, for solar panels. Solar panels are made in part from minerals that are strip mined. Strip mining does not use solar power. Strip mining does not utilize wind power. Strip mining is not electrical and fed by a nuclear plant. Strip mining uses fossil fuel. It ruins the environment, and it also exploits third worlders. That's just the fucking way that it is. The green energy lobby doesn't want people to understand this. They're terrified that Michael Moore is going to red pill a bunch of liberals. Now, caveat, I support green energy anyway. It is a better alternative to what we currently use. And no, nuclear is not part of that. Hell, nuclear strip mining for uranium and things is way worse. In the end, with efficiency slowly rising over time, there will come a tipping point at which basically we're pumping out solar panels using solar power, and we're pumping out windmills using wind power, and hopefully recycling materials, number one, and utilizing materials that don't require strip mining, number two. I think it's possible. Why don't we work on new technology and allow the free market to fix it? But see, here's the problem. The green energyites are defending an industry that has been heavily intervened in by central government. And when government gets involved, it gets more expensive and it gets corrupt. And lobbying groups make a lot of money. And politicians make a lot of money. And a lot of shitty laws are passed. For instance, if you want to set up home solar in my home state of Vermont, there used to be a subsidy to offset this. The regulatory cost is something like 30% of the total cost of the home solar system. So home solar would be affordable to people in the middle class, but instead, it's only sporadic. Here in the Netherlands, where it's partially centrally subsidized, which also I don't support, it's fucking everywhere. And this country's got a darker climate than Vermont, trust me. More cloudy, number one, and certainly less sunlight, especially during the winter months, number two. If it can work in Northern Europe, it can definitely work in the US, but the regulatory cost is totally different. You've got an inverted system in which it's disincentivized. Wind, the same thing. See wind down in Texas, of course, where there's almost no regulations. I wonder why it's becoming a juggernaut of green energy. Texas, of all places, by the way. It's hysterical. Here's the thing, though. The metal that's used in the windmill, the metals and materials that are used, the minerals that are used to make the solar panels, the construction material for all of these things, the strip mining for uranium, for the use in nuclear, it's not really truly green. It's not a carbon negative sort of system. It creates a lot of waste and pollution, and it creates a lot of havoc in areas that are being extracted from. It creates environmental degradation. That is the truth. Michael Moore is telling you the truth, for once. This pisses off the liberals, because they want to keep the illusion that green energy is the solution to all of the world's problems going. It's sort of like the idea of a carbon tax. A carbon tax is just a way for the government to screw people out of more of their money and appropriate more resources to itself. It will do absolutely nothing to reverse any form of environmental degradation. It'll do absolutely nothing. No, the most polluted areas of the world are in the deep third world, sometimes in areas that are barely industrialized where people live in hovels. Their quality of living is non-existent. There's like paper bags floating around like fucking tumbleweeds. That's just the way that it is. Attempting to prevent heavy industry in the West won't solve the problem. It'll just move to China. China will love those factories, and they won't even make them install high-tech scrubbers. No, they don't care. Belch out all the coal smoke you want. They don't care. Use the cheapest energy sources. Dump your toxic waste in the goddamn river. Who cares? India will gladly take them. Malaysia and Thailand and some of these other countries, they have areas of very heavy industry, of very little accountability, and virtually no workers' rights. So U.S. and other Western firms are already primed. If they have the money to invest, they already want to expand into Asia just because of the workers' protection laws. But if you try to tax them out of existence in the West, it'll make the problem worse. Overall, the world's pollution levels will rise. Here we actually force them to install technology to try to keep things tamped down a little bit. It's funny that Michael Moore, the documentary that gets him more ire than any other, isn't a documentary about how Bush is Satan, or a documentary about how Donald Trump is going to cause World War III. No, it's a documentary about the green energy lobby. Isn't that really, really exciting? Isn't that really fun? And by the way, Michael Moore is laughing his way to the bank because you're making his documentary relevant by trying to boycott and censor it. Now, to Mr. Moore, of course, you're a leftist, in a more, maybe at this point, oddly enough, classical sense. Isn't it very, very funny that the left has literally left you behind? Biden is feeling the pain too. Hell, Bernie's feeling the pain. Bernie Sanders has been left behind by the new wave left. He's not far left enough for a lot of these people. It's very funny. Very fickle people now. They totally haven't gone off a far left cliff. Michael Moore is now considered to be a shill for the fossil fuel industry. I think it's goddamn hilarious. That's about all. Peace out.